Hello, my name is Richard. I go by UltraByRich, and this is UltraByRich Meta Ads. In this session, we're going to be talking a little bit more about targeting and geolocation. There's a lot of different options when it comes to picking where you should advertise your company or your service, especially when it comes to locale. So let's jump right in. First and foremost, when you are creating an ad inside your ad set or your audience, it's going to prompt you for a question like, where do you want to advertise? And generally speaking, it's going to toss out United States. And let's be honest, that's just wrong. We don't need to target 154 million to 182 million people out of the gates. Needless to say, we don't have a budget big enough to even come close to targeting that. And or it wouldn't be successful. We couldn't target that big of a space, that large of an audience. So it's important to note that not necessarily a everyone works audience here is a good fit. So let's talk a little bit more about that. The first thing we recommend doing is starting with your city. So let's use Draper, Utah for an example. You'll notice that Facebook does default it to a 25-mile radius. Now, we generally recommend anywhere between 15 and 25 miles. So that's a great starting point. But you can see in comparison, my audience size has now dropped from hundreds of millions to now under about 1 million, which is great. Again, we're not paying a ton of attention to the audience size because that audience size is changing basically every single day. But it's important to note that we have at least a decent sized audience. Okay, so if you're ever looking like, okay, let's start there. Now, real quick, I wanted to mention to you our Done For You Facebook ads. There's a link in the description for a free one-on-one session where we actually go through your business and talk about how we can optimize and build out your campaigns. It's free to do. Definitely recommend it. Let's get back to it. Use maybe Los Angeles. And Los Angeles is probably not a good example of using 25 miles. You can see I just 5 times my audience size, different city, but population density is really high. So in this example, even a 5-mile or 10-mile radius is going to reduce that down to 3 to 4 million. So you can see not necessarily doing a city in this instance would be helpful because your business may not be right there. Your business may be over here in Pomona. So this is where we recommend actually dropping a pin. And so you click this little button right here, and then as soon as you click it, it'll give you a pin icon, and then you just click drop. And then we're going to remove Los Angeles because let's say our business is over here, it's not there. We want to only target 10 miles around our business. Now you can see with this slight adjustment, I am now under the 1 million audience size, which is great, but I'm still a decent sized audience. I'm over 500,000. So again, using the drop pin tool to your advantage based on the population density, using the audience size as kind of bearings, make an educated decision here. Okay, let's use another example of somewhere in between. Let's try like Houston. Same density, but maybe a 15-mile radius is more acceptable. Not as heavy as Los Angeles, but definitely has a population density that you could probably still consider a 10-mile radius on and still pick up a lot of people. Again, dropping a pin, coming over to your region, removing the original region, and double checking that 10 is good. Or you can bump it up. If you're out of the main center, a 15 may be okay. You can see I'm still under that mark. Okay. The other thing you can do is United States. If it is an awareness campaign and you have maybe an online service or shopping, you could absolutely have a campaign. Now, again, you have to know, you'd have to have a pretty big spend for that to be effective, but it'd be a great way to start figuring out where some of your clients live. The other favorite tactic I have for this is using United States, and then you include cities only. This gives you an option that most people don't even know about, but you can actually specify the city based on the population size. And then you'll notice that each of these categories have different cities in them. And here's a chart of each of those. And again, they're just basing these off of third-party data, metrics, etc. But if you said, look, I have a product that does really well, I can target, 250,000 to a 750,000. It's going to get these two groups of cities for you just based off of population size. So again, once you have more information, you can make more finite decisions. My recommendation is either use United States or use United States cities only and turn it loose. Throw a couple $100 at a campaign to see if you can actually land the lead. If you can, figure out where they came from, what city, and then come back in here and actually target that city explicitly. It is worth mentioning that Facebook's targeting platform will only work better when you give it more specific and finite information. So again, United States is way too broad. It's not going to be finite enough. Let's use Salt Lake City as an example. You can see population density is lower, so a 25-mile radius is more acceptable. But in this regard, our office is actually in Draper down here. So we may even benefit from removing the Salt Lake and using a pin and then dialing in the pin for maybe a 20-mile radius. Now again, you could have achieved the same result by typing Draper, Utah, and dropping this from 25 to 20, and you're in the same bubble. So again, just use your own discretion, taking advantage of the drop pin feature, taking advantage of the city. And then if I had something that I wanted to target the entire state, you can do a state. Again, your budget's going to go up. It's targeting the entire state versus a region or locale. So your ad's going to be inserted with other ads that are targeting and competing. Your ad's probably not going to win that competition with the budget being low. So another great example of not necessarily the region you want or the city, but the area and the GPS locale you want. Thank you for watching this clip. If you enjoyed this content, please leave a comment, drop a like, and make sure you subscribe.